So to wrap up with Breach Titan, I'm not gonna lie, that was not the best showing possible for the deck, but I think it's not unrepresentative. You are sacrificing some amount of consistency as opposed to Scape Shift, and you're gaining some amount of power for the games that you just get the Titan Breach, and that does cost you in some spots. You are getting to a lot of spots with this deck where you're kind of saying, well, I have X draw steps to draw Y number of outs, and I hope I hit, and sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. Ghost Quarter is a problematic card. Anything that targetedly exiles things like Surgical Extraction is a very big issue. Kind of, again, blown away that our mill opponent didn't actually just like get us with Extirpate at some point. Um, the main deck's got a couple flex slots, but there's not a ton of wiggle room, and you don't get to really go too far down on anything in terms of like deck building. Like these, you can mess around with these slots. You can try Nahiri, but I'm not a huge fan of that. The Scape Shift's like a card, but you're kind of locked into your same power level no matter what you do. When you pull this is a perfect example of Sam Black's approach to Modern, where you play the best deck that no one is expecting. This is the deck that last weekend was the best deck that no one was expecting. And moving forward to weekend, I can't say it's the same thing, especially because the Obzon deck that Ben Stark and Pat Cox and the rest of Team Ultra Pro played was reasonably good against this deck. I mean, I lost to it. Scott beat Ben in a close 3-game set. So, I mean, I lost in like a tightish 3-game set, I believe. So it's just like, once the metagame starts getting spiteful towards this deck, you start becoming like a 40% deck, and it's time to move on. But fortunately, it's a relatively easy deck to play, so picking it up and putting it back down isn't a huge time sink. Because that's one of the big things about Modern is that it's so hard to learn new decks because there's so many aspects you have to consider against so many things, and there's so much shooting against all these things that there's a lot of little details, and then it's really often you see players getting paid off for playing the same deck over and over and over again and knowing all the ins and outs. This is a deck where, yeah, you can just play it one week pretty easily and not get too heavily punished for, maybe it being the first time you pick it up.